This one says factor by grouping. And it's really our only option when we have what I like to call a four-nomial. When I have four terms, our only option is either GCF the whole thing or factor by grouping, which I kind of call GCF three times. And I call it GCF three times because we're going to take the GCF three times. So look for a GCF amongst all four terms. Now, all four terms don't have a letter, so I can't take an X. And I look at 3, -6, 2, and 4, -2 and 4. They don't all have a number in common except 1. It's already in standard forms, and I don't have my first number as a negative, so I don't have a GCF amongst all of them. So what I do is I start my grouping method, which is GCF three times. What I need to do is I need to first look at my first pair. Is there a GCF amongst the first pair? Well, yeah. If I look at 3 and -6, I have a 3. It's positive because it leads with a positive. Do they all have a letter in common? X. What's the smallest exponent? 2. And when I divide by, give myself some space. When I divide both terms by 3x squared, I get a binomial back. I have x minus 2. Okay. Now I'm going to do GCF a second time. I'm going to GCF my second pair. Now, do these have a GCF amongst them? Well, yeah. Since it leads with a negative, I'm going to take out the negative. -2 and +4 have a 2 in common. Do they both have letters? No, this one has one, but not the other. So I can't take out an x. So I'm going to divide, give myself some space again. Divide by -2 on both of them. I have -2x divided by -2 is x. 4 divided by -2 is -2. Now I GCF once in blue. I GCF a second time in green. I'm going to GCF a third time in red. So I look at my two terms. I have still this and that. Do they have anything in common? Well, it gets a little tricky. Let's look at this one. I have this times that minus this times that. Do they have anything in common? Well, yeah. Do you see the parentheses match? Now, when you're factoring by grouping, your parentheses are always going to match. If they don't match, you got to back up a step. You probably did something wrong. So they both have an x minus 2. Now, recall, my answer is going to be some binomial times some binomial. So it turns out that one of these binomials is going to be the one in common. So x minus 2. So when I do the x minus 2, when I represent it in my answer, they disappear. So what do I have left over? I have 3x squared first, -2 after that. Very good. And that's my answer. I could multiply this through by foiling, distributing, boxing, whatever it is, and I have my answer. Now, most times, you're going to see in the answer key, we're going to write it like this, with the larger degree first. But this is correct, or exactly how I wrote it first, turns out to be the same thing. Why? Because I can take two things and multiply them, and I can reverse the order, multiply them again. It's the same thing. So both of them are acceptable answers. Now, wrapping up, do you see why I called it GCF 3 times? Because you break it in half, hence the word grouping. I'm going to group the first two. I'm going to GCF one time in blue. I'm going to group the second two in a pair, GCF in green. And then I'm going to GCF a third time in red. And I get my binomial times a binomial as my answer.